Well, good afternoon, everyone, or as the case may be in your part of the world, it might even be good morning. For some of you, I know it's going to be a very good morning. My name is Dr. Dan, and we are about to do what we try to do at least once a week here at Voice Essentials, a live hangout here on YouTube. It's always exciting. In fact, I always get, in the lead up to actually going live with you guys here on YouTube, I always get a little bit nervy, because it really is anything. When we're doing live, anything can happen, right? And so it's always an exciting thing to do, and I love spending, this period of time with you. I do my very best to keep it to about 20 to 30 minutes. It always goes longer. Today, we really do have to try to keep it to our time limit. Today, what we're going to do is talk about a subject that I think many of us can get a little bit confused about. We're going to be talking about muscle memory, specifically in how do we develop muscle memory so that we start to see it activated in our performance. We're going to talk about that connection between our practice and seeing what we practice in our skill development, in our practice, seeing that come across into our songs and therefore into our repertoire. So I hope you're going to stick around for the next 30 minutes or so, and make sure you jump on and give us your comments. I can see we've already got a few people jumping in here, and Gavin, well done. You were first to jump on with a comment. Nicely done, my friend. But let's get into today's session and talk about muscle memory.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2. Sound check. Check.
And I have just seen that Karen, our good friend from Singwise Vocals, has just dropped in as well. I'm glad to see that you'll stick around. Karen, it's nice to have you join with us. So we're going to be talking about muscle memory today. And of course, as always, a little bit later on in the show, we're going to be answering your questions to the best of my ability. I don't profess to be, an oracle of vocal knowledge, but I do retain a fair bit that hopefully we can respond to your questions and provide you with some hopefully practical answers. There's a lot of theory that goes with what we learn with voice, but I always do try to make that theory as practical as possible. And so hopefully you can jump on and leave your comments, and you can see over here we've already got some comments happening. And Jonathan, it's midnight there. Yeah, so make sure you let us know where you're from, and let me show you. This is Brisbane, Australia. This is looking out of my studio window as we speak, and wow, it's a bit of an overcast day, as you can see, and with the view there, and we are heading here our autumn months, and it's we're having. It was just starting to cool down a little, and which actually I prefer. I love the colder months, and although it does play havoc with our voice, doesn't it, the colder months, and I'm already experiencing the change of season, and it's having a bit of an impact on me vocally, but nonetheless, I would prefer. I always say, when it's hot, you can only ever take so many clothes off, before you become indecent. With winter, you can always put more clothes on, and opportunity to start pulling out those. But of course, if you're in the northern hemisphere, which I know a lot of you are, then you are heading into the warmer months. Mind you, I had a lesson with one of my students online this morning. He's from North Dakota in the US, and he said they've just had 5 to 6 inches of snow, which is a little unseasonal, and so hopefully in the north you're hopefully starting to experience a little bit of a warmer weather. Yes, so let us know where you're from, let us know what the weather's doing, but most importantly, start to write down your questions over here in the comments section, so I can answer those questions for you a little later on. But for now, what I want to do is get into, as I said, this topic of muscle, a bit of a confusing topic for some. And I specifically want to get to talking about see our developed muscle memory, those things we practice in our studio, become automated. Before we do, what I want to do is I want to make by one of the world's leading, arguably one of the singing teachers. And as you know, I'm not a read. I like to go and look at what the classical people are doing and see if there's some opportunity for us to interpret those things into what we do for contemporary. And certainly this book has got a whole range of stuff in there, particularly about articulation and tongue root tension and those sorts of things. And in fact, I've left, I'll show you the quote in a moment, I've left a link in the description section below that actually will take you to the second edition. It's an affiliate link, so when you click on that link, and if you decide you'd like to purchase the text, which I'd highly recommend, I will get a little commission. Just so that you're completely aware, it does go to free online review, but it'll take you to the second. As it would turn out, I've actually both, and they're not that dissimilar. Better than the revision is learning. Let's have a read of this big subject of muscle memory. Let's have a read of it. We know that muscle memory takes a minimum of 4 weeks. It is confusing to add more until the one undercurrent study is at some level of. Let's have a read of that again, mostly because I can get it to fire. Come on, Wirecast, help me out here. Boot this, everyone. Let me see if it'll actually there for me. Is it going to do it? Control. So what Janice is getting there is, students, is I work on in a sense, a methodical, a systematic approach. Questions online here on the YouTube channel, and some people email saying, how do I work through your time? You know, the second week, and add a couple of exercises. And what we're wanting to do is slowly but surely develop muscle memory. And the reason for that is because, fortunately, for many of us, don't always naturally. Breath management, you're breathing all day. Right now, your tidal breath, watching the video, is probably seeing it anywhere between 7 to 9, 8 times. So your diaphragm is moving up and down, and in an automated fashion. The moment we come to do singing, we start to run into just typing in here. So we'll stick with it. We'll see if we can. And I'll see if I can. Stay with me, everyone. I'll just see if I can go across. And we'll see if we can go across to here. Mobile spot. Okay, that's going to fix it, everyone. So hopefully in a moment we're going to be back and we'll be fine. It would appear that the cable internet here in Brisbane, Australia has gone a bit wonky, so I've gone across to going mobile, and hopefully that's going to be a lot better. Let me know in the comments section if it's all good. Gaming hotspot with Jacob, it is not your internet. It is almost certainly my internet, which is frustrating to say the least. So where were we up to? I think we're up to talking about the fact that, making that connection of muscle memory between practice and going across into performance. And one of the main areas of the challenges for us as singers is breath management, for example. So when I start with breathing, my approach is I want to slow everything down. I want to get the body, you, the singer, more in touch with what your body is doing. There's a number of ways to approach breath management. Certainly my approach is that. Okay, Gavin, good. It's okay now. I'm glad to see. I'm just having a look over at your comments, everyone. Not mine, me too. Just give it a moment. Dana is saying it's good. I'm glad to hear that, everyone. My apologies, out of my control, but we fixed it, which is good. So, so we're thinking about, let's switch over to a different video and get me standing up, and I'll talk you through a couple of things. So what we generally have is, when we start to think about a boxer, when I think about a boxer, I think about, there's two iconic exercises when it comes to boxing. There's the speed ball, you know, that punching bag, and then there's a skipping rope. You might also add the third, Rocky vision of him running up and down stairs. All three of those activities you never see in a boxing ring. You never see a boxer doing this to someone's head. Unless you're watching a cartoon. You never see them skipping. You never see them jogging up and down stairs. What those activities are about is developing muscle memory. And for many of us in singing, we kind of want to skip over the speed ball. We want to skip over the skipping rope. Those activities for us as singers is simple activities like ya, ya. We do fall into the trap of thinking, oh, that's just about pitch accuracy, being able to sing, a 5-note scale with accurate pitch. Well, that is one aspect, and one aspect alone. There's a whole heap of other stuff that's going on with such a simple activity, and that is, what's happening with my jaw? Is my jaw wanting to grip? Yeah. Is my tongue wanting to retract? Yeah. Yeah. Is my placement? Yeah. Is it back or is it forward? Yeah. Is my soft palate really lazy? Yeah. Yes, there's a whole heap of stuff. Then we go further down. What's happening with my entire instrument? How buoyant is it? How supportive is it to a nice even note? Am I all rigid? Yeah. And all of my top note has tightness to it. Often the body wants to respond with tension. And so a big part of our muscle memory work when we're exercising in our homes and our studios, our own studios at home, when we're practicing, is developing, teaching the body less tension. Yeah. And thinking about a whole range of stuff. Now, you never stand on stage singing yeah ever. Well, I think I have, but that's generally been when I've been teaching voice. What we sing on stage is lyric and melody, and we're communicating. The last thing I ever want, in fact, I was presenting as a part of a panel a few days back on Saturday, as a part of World Voice Day. World Voice Day is the 16th of April every year, but because it fell on Easter this year, we bumped it a week and we did it on Saturday. And we were talking about the fact that we as singing teachers, we never want you to be wholly and solely focused on, tongue root tension. When you're performing, I don't want you thinking about tongue root tension. I want you thinking about buoyant alignment. I don't want you thinking about what is my air doing. I want you predominantly, the main thing I want you thinking about is the narrative, the lyric. Yeah, what am I communicating to my audience? If your focus is not at that point, you have kind of missed it already. Yeah? You can sing the most perfectly, technically, a wonderful performance, but if you are not able to communicate your message to your audience, then you kind of might as well pack up and go home, because singing is about communication. Now, let's not make the mistake of thinking that Dr. Dan is saying, oh, okay, it's all about communication. No. What we're saying is you should have already done the muscle memory work in your own studio and developed it to the point of automation to a certain level, so that you are able to stand on stage and focus on the very thing that needs to be focused on in that moment. It is so important that you do that. The only way that you can truly do that is to spend the 10,000 hours on your own, in a quiet studio space, a learning space, whether that be your bedroom, your lounge room, a practice room at university, for those of you who are studying voice. You have to spend that dedicated, regular, consistent, at least, if you depending on where you want to go with this, at least 5 times a week, or for those of you who are just starting out, every second day. It is the only way to achieve, really healthy outcomes and to develop that muscle memory, so that when we, then go from singing in our studio and singing those activities, we see that come out in our songs, in our material. I still remember asking the question of one of my very, very first singing teachers, who was incredibly patient with me, it must be said. And I said to her, all this exercise stuff, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, when am I ever going to do, exercise X over here? I just want to sing songs. I was young, naive, and it must be said, quite ignorant, and I dare say had a healthy bout of arrogance, youthful arrogance, and she just said, well, you just got to, it's going to help later on. And she couldn't have been more right. And I find myself saying this to students all the time. You have to put in the hours, not the minutes, the hours of practice to get the results on stage, but in a manner where, you don't have to think about it as much. Now, there are times, and here's the beauty of it, when you've developed really good technique, there are times where that technique, you are going to have to call upon that consciously. You remove it from that sort of automated place to a conscious place, because you might be sick during that particular gig. And so you have to really come up underneath the voice and consciously activate your technique in such a way as to carry you through. If you don't have that technique to call upon in those times, that's when your voice is at risk. You are on the edge of vocal despair a little, because you don't have anything to call on. You haven't built that foundation that you can, dig deep into and carry you through those times when the voice is not feeling great. I hope that's all helpful. I wanted to talk to you today about muscle memory, and now what we're going to do is I'm going to come back over here, and we are going to talk about, let me go over here. We're now going to talk about your questions. What have you been asking? And as we go over to the questions, and so make sure you're asking your questions. Again, sorry again for that little technical glitch that we had a little bit earlier, but we seem to be through it right now, and everyone's telling me that we are. So let's go to Gavin, because Gavin, if I go right back up the top there, Gavin was the very first person to jump on. For those of you who don't know, if you do want to be notified of when I go live, and again, I do go live generally Monday, Tuesday. I go live generally when I have a break between students, and this one's a cancellation. I'm supposed to be teaching right now. I am teaching, but I'm teaching all of you. But this is supposed to be a private session with one of my studio students, but she's a uni student. She had to go and do something for uni, so I was able to jump on. So what I do is I just try to find a spot in the day where I can jump on with you live and do these live recordings. So yeah, the way to be notified about those is make sure you subscribe to the channel and then hit the bell icon, and YouTube will send you a notification for that. So let's go to Gavin, because he was first. Let's go over to here and see how he's... So Gavin asks the question, why does transitioning from head voice to chest voice is easier than chest to head? Well, Gavin, it's not always the case that it's that way around. It depends on which muscle group has been strengthened more than the other. In good singing development, we actually want you to have full control so that you're not, I don't know if you remember the picture of Popeye, you know, the sailor man. He always had one arm stronger than the other, yeah, and it was his big bulky arm. And what we never want to be is out of balance like that. So if you are struggling to go from, if you're finding it easier to go from head voice, your upper register, down into your lower register, that would suggest to me that your chest voice muscles are more dominant. They're able to take on the control. Equally, if you're going from chest up to head, then what's happening is your voice, your thyroarytenoid muscle, which is the active muscle in your chest voice, the predominant muscle, is not wanting to let go, and your lengthener muscles, your cricoarytenoid muscles and your cricothyroid muscles are not able to activate in a way as to grab a hold and take over the control. And so it's, again, this tug of war. For those of you who want to have a little bit more of a look at that, you can jump onto my channel and look up voice registration. You can go looking for some information about that if you want to learn a little bit more about voice registration. And there's also a transitions video on there that I think you'll find helpful. Hopefully, Gavin, that answers your question. And we've got quite a few people on today, which is really great to see. Coming a bit further down, have we got any other questions before we started to hit the lag? I do apologise. I'm hoping that we'll get a new thing here in the next couple of months called the NBM, our National Broad Network or something. I forget what it's called. Broadband Network, and hopefully that'll fix all of those issues up. But it was a little bit nasty to start, wasn't it? So thanks for your patience. Okay. Gavin Bott, I know you have lots of questions. You've asked many of them here on the channel. Okay, we're going down a bit better. Have we got any more questions down below? And Singwise, Karen from Singwise has said wax on, wax off. Yes, Karen, that is an example I use a lot. For those of you who don't know what wax on, wax off, just quickly jump over and Google that exact phrase, wax on, wax off. It'll take you to the movie Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel-san to do karate by getting him to wax on and wax off. And he basically was teaching muscle memory. He wanted his body to respond in a particular way. And so he'd do this wax on, wax off action so that when he came to be attacked by an opponent, he would wax on and wax off. And there's your muscle memory. Great point, Karen. Okay, going over here. Where am I going here? So we're going to look down here. Okay. I'm desperate, Gavin. You're desperate for high notes. I've actually got a video coming out where we talk about beginner singers' desperation for high notes. High notes need to be something we develop in our singing, but I never want them to become this burdensome focus. We don't spend the majority of our time singing high notes. We spend the majority of our time in a 1 to 1.5 octave range, which is your sweet spot, and then we go looking for the extremes. I've got a video coming up, Gavin, that I think you're going to get a lot out of. Here we go, down to here. Gavin, out of all Dr. Dan's teaching, I can only do half of it. Well, Gavin, keep working at it. Yeah, this is not going to happen overnight. And there does come a point, and this is an interesting point to make, everyone. learning to sing online, and one of the wonders of modern technology is we've got this thing called YouTube, and we've got people, you know, that are able to step on. I'm able to step online with you, and for free, I can have these, what is in many respects, have a two-way conversation with you, like we're doing in the comments. But there eventually comes a point where this stuff online will reach a ceiling. You can only go so far with someone online. I think it's great preparatory work to do, as long as the source of information you're listening to, you know, dare I say, knows what they're talking about, and the information is good. And I'd like to think that I fall into that category. But as long as you do that, then this information will take you so far. There is going to come a point, however, where the only way you can progress beyond that ceiling is to be in a studio, whether it be online, you know, in a private session, one-to-one, or in a private studio with a singing teacher who you trust, because the singing here online, I can't tell you when you're doing it wrong. I'm not watching you work with every one of my videos. The video and even my exercise CD can't correct you. It can't direct you and say, oh, that was good, try this. The only way that can happen is when you have a one-on-one singing lesson. And I would hate to think that anyone would come away thinking anything different from my channel. The channel is there to serve a very particular purpose, and it really helps those of you who financially maybe can't access those one-on-one lessons. But nonetheless, that doesn't actually change the fact that the lessons, the work that we do on the channel can only take you thus far. It cannot take you any further. At that point, you must have a private singing lesson with a qualified singing teacher who can diagnose, correct, and help you really improve on your very specific, unique challenges that every voice has. I think that's a really important point to make, and I don't know that I've ever had the opportunity to really stress that, so I'm glad I took the opportunity just then. We go down to, here's an interesting question down here, and I'm only going to take 2 more questions, everyone. And so I'm going to take one from Ibukan, who I don't think I've seen on our channel before. It's nice to have you join us. Ibukan, where are you from? You might want to just quickly let us know where you're from, and it's good to have you join us here. How do you sing with a growl that is healthy? Well, interesting point. How do you sing with a growl that's healthy? There are a couple of approaches that you can take to this, and I want to really stress, I am not what I would refer to as an expert in distorted voice. If you want to do more work in this area, I know that Melissa Cross, her Zen of Scream is highly regarded by many. I have not personally done any work with that, and so I can't personally endorse it. However, there are many people who I respect who have endorsed it. And so I think we can take their lead. Melissa Cross. I know that the CVT group, Catherine Sutherland, does do some work in that area, and so that could be worth looking into. Complete vocal training, I think, is the shortened version is CVT. However, the little bit that I do know, the stuff that I help my heavy metal singers that come in and do work with me, first of all, I always orientate every singer to a healthy, clean, simultaneous onset. I think that's really important, that's our habitual starting point. But then when we're talking about growl, we can use what is the bottom register of our voice, which is called pulse. And so, yeah, if you go, and we get that little crackle at the bottom, yeah? Some people refer to it as fry. That's the pulse register, and you can use that. You can also use that, yeah, that sort of guttural sort of sound. But can I also just let you in on a little secret? many of the top metal singers, if you're going for that really distorted sound, a lot of it is actually smoke and mirrors. A lot of it is a very, very loud mic held really closely. They're cupping across the ball of the mic to actually enhance the lower frequencies. They're actually creating a very, what in many respects would be regarded as quite a quiet sound with a very low flow of air. So it's not forced, it's not stressed. And so it's actually a lot of the work, and so they're putting an effect of distortion across the voice also, and they're getting a really distorted sound, and that makes it far more sustainable than if you are just going for an absolute rah. Yeah, that rah is going to be really constricted and really wear and tear at the voice. And so they're the things that I always direct my metal singers to, is to learning those smoke and mirrors, that art form of metal voice. Again, if you want to learn more about that, go looking up Melissa Cross. Zen of Scream is her work, or Complete Vocal Training, CVT. And I think you'll find some really good work in both of those camps on that specific topic. We have got the opportunity to do one more question. Oh, I can see Ibecan is from London. And well, I'm glad, mate. I'm glad that you I'm glad you're enjoying the content. Well, there you go. Melissa Cross discusses the smoke and mirrors in the Zenith. Well, there you go. I can honestly say to you, Karen, I've never read that. That's just how I explain it. So I'd like to think it's, great minds think alike, perhaps. One more question, everyone. One more question. Daniel's just quickly asked, how can I practice vibrato? I do have a video, Daniel, on vibrato that you can go and have a look at in your own time, because we won't have time to really unpack it now. Vibrato is not something that I ever am keen to see contemporary singers get hung up on. Neither do I want to see them need it or not need it. I want you to be in control of it. Vibrato is something that onsets into your voice when your voice has reached a mechanical, muscular balance where the air is flowing evenly, there's a less tension, and so you're able to turn it on and off at will. It used to be back in the late 90s that we were teaching all contemporary singers, we don't use vibrato. That is no longer the case. There are so many professional contemporary singers who have made, in contemporary music, that have made vibrato their signature. So it's not a matter of, having it or not having it. It's more about being able to control it if you are able to access it. And in the video that I've done on this subject, again, jump over to the channel and have a look. I talk about the fact that I actually think there may well be some people who just are unable to access it, and but I give you a couple of activities on that video to see if you can, to unlock it and experience it a little, and hopefully you'll find that helpful. Karen's got the Zen of Scream, so maybe Karen, you could maybe do. For those of you, you need to go and check out Karen's channel. She's great, and maybe she can talk a bit on her channel about her experiences with Zen of Scream. Like I said, I haven't personally looked at the program, so important for me not to go any further with it. But if Karen's not saying whether one way or the other whether it's any good or not yet. But yeah. So in Manchester, Andrew, it's 5:30 a.m. Wow, you're up early, mate. That's cool. Is it? I don't know. 5:30. If I get up before 6, I do not function well, I can tell you. One more question. Who are we going to give the last question to? Gavin, admittedly, I'm hesitant to give it to you because we gave you the first question. Who are we going to go to? Let's see if I can find another question that I passed by. Oh, have we got another question? Anyone? Anyone? Beyonce is one of the best growlers. Gavin, if that's the case, I wouldn't call Beyonce a growler. I'd say that she uses a lot of glottal stroking, a lot of glottal fry at the commencement of her phrase, so her onsets have a lot of fry. Christina Aguilera is probably the most vocal fried singer as far as her onsets in recent history. Here's one more. Armando, it's going to go to you. The last question for today. What's the best exercise to strengthen my voice? Excellent question. A good exercise to strengthen your voice, what you can do is use any exercise that particularly workshops your, let's see, what would refer to as semi-occluded vocal tract exercises that cause balance but cause a development of the muscle. So, and I've done straw work with many of you before. You get a straw, and just, this is a great strengthening exercise. It's going to sound simple, but it's really good. Once you're able to do it, single note, evenly, consistently, no crackle, no in and out, go to a smaller straw. And I've got a new video coming out in the next few weeks about this, where you go, so you're going down to a smaller space straw. This is 5 mil, this is 2.5 mil, and literally being able to go up in semitones and back in semitones will actually develop strength in the musculature and, more importantly, balance as you do so. And so if you're looking to develop strength, I would really encourage you to grab yourself some straws and start humming through them. Well, everyone, that is, I think that's a wrap. For those of you, just remind you, we talked about these books down below. There's a comment section down below. Sorry, in the description section, you can get the link, the affiliate link to this book, which is the second edition of this book. Both excellent, and you can have a look at the quote, which was page 10 of this book that we had a look earlier in the show. For those of you who haven't downloaded my exercise CD yet, please take a moment to go and download it. Every penny that you spend on the site goes towards helping me to be able to assist you with these free online tutorials. I really hope that they're beneficial to you. If it has been a beneficial few moments that we've spent together, please hit the thumbs up button. Let the YouTube gods know that you're getting something out of the sessions. And this week we are talking about those things that go towards making a top-rate singer. Yeah, five points that every developing singer needs to know about when it comes to developing as a top singer. So it's literally for everyone. The last couple of videos that I've had go live, last week was asthma. The week before that was premenstrual voice syndrome. So, you know, premenstrual voice syndrome, automatically half of the population aren't interested. And there's only a few of you that suffer from asthma. This video that goes live this Thursday, 5 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, is for everyone. If you are subscribed to this channel, please, you've got to watch this video, because, you know, there's more to being a singer than just being able to sing in tune, just being able to sing lyrics. There's even more than being just able to communicate. There's actually more about you, the human being, that encases the larynx. Yeah, and so we're going to talk about, you know, the maturity of the human being as a holistic thing. I won't go into it anymore. You can watch the video on Thursday. But look, as I always say, until I see you in the next Voice Essentials video, I've had a great time today, everyone.